The human body is capable of incredible feats if pushed against a corner, or, as in my case, against a ceiling. In the end of this story, I will survive the flood that trapped me in my basement, but it came at a great cost. And it's all my dad's fault. A few years earlier, he and my mom divorced. Through lying and manipulation, he convinced the family court to give him sole child custody over me. I was only 8 years old, and he did it by convincing me that my mom was evil. He told me she had only sent me to ballet classes so she could sell me to the circus one day. At the same time, I was afraid of my dad. I didn't want to upset him, so when the court asked me if I wanted to continue to live with my mom or my dad, I responded, "My mom is evil. I want to stay with Dad." When my mom heard what I said about her, she broke out in tears and screamed, "But I've always been good to you, and I love you so much." I saw my mom cry and was about to change my mind, but it was too late. The court announced that my dad had won sole child custody over me, and then he immediately dragged me out of the courtroom before I could say anything. Back at home, he told me I'd be homeschooled from now on, because that way my mom couldn't kidnap me on my way to school. But really, that was just an excuse to turn me into his housemaid. He continued, saying that I should first learn how to cook and clean. So the next morning, he handed me a cookbook and said, "Start studying now. I'll be back home at 5 p.m. Surprise me with a meal." That's how I, at the age of 8, became the servant and private chef of my dad. But it was just the beginning. You see, jerks often get along well with other jerks, and Dad soon found a new girlfriend, Darcy. The first time I met her, she tousled my hair and said, "You are such a cutie. Do you like playing video games?" But Dad interrupted her, saying, "Don't pamper her. She's only here to clean the house and cook me food. You don't have to pretend to like her." Oh, thank God. I can't tell you how much I hate children. That same day, I had to cook them dinner, but made a big mistake. I thought I could eat with them at the table. Normally, Dad didn't care if I sat down next to him or not, but Darcy said, "I don't want you to sit here with us. You can come back when we are finished, to eat the leftovers and clean the dishes." Darcy then looked at my dad to check his reaction, to see if he'd get angry at her for mistreating me, but my dad didn't care. He just continued eating, acting like nothing had happened. And that was the difference between these two. Dad just didn't care about me, but Darcy got a kick out of subjugating and bullying me. The first night she stayed over at our house, she came into my room right before bedtime and told me to sit down. She said, "Your dad and I are a couple now. He loves me dearly, while he hates you. And no wonder. So far, you've tried everything you can to break us apart." "That's not true. I've treated you with respect, and I've only been nice to you." But she put her fingers on my lips and shut my mouth. "Don't ever interrupt me again, you bastard child. I don't like you, and neither does your dad. No one likes you. Speak up to me again, and you will regret it." I freed myself from her fingers and screamed, "You are right! My dad doesn't love me, but guess what? He doesn't love you either." To my surprise, she left the room without further arguing with me. I thought I had stood my ground well, but then I heard screams. I ran to see what happened and found her at the bottom of the stairs crying. Dad came too and asked what happened. She said, "Your daughter tripped my feet and I fell. She is so mean." I was scared my dad would punish me, but he did something even worse. He told Darcy, "Don't let a child bully you. Punish her yourself," and walked away again. Wow, did my dad just give her permission to do with me whatever she wanted? Well, the next morning I heard Darcy screaming again, and this time she called my name. I went downstairs and saw her with her injured leg resting on the footrest. "See what you've done to me? I can't go to work today because you pushed me down the stairs. Now go make me breakfast, you bastard child." I flipped her off and went back to my room. No way I would become her slave. But when Dad got home in the evening, he took me to the side and said, "There are only 2 rules you have to follow. First, do the household, and second, don't annoy me. If my girlfriend tells you to do something, you will do it. Understood? If Darcy complains about you one more time, I will feed you to the dogs." But that doesn't make sense. If I'm so annoying, why not just send me to Mom? After our divorce, your mom wasn't allowed to stay any longer in the US. She had to fly back to Iran. The news shook me. Iran, the country my mom was born in, has a horrible government that mistreats its people badly, especially women who are seen as second-class citizens. As much as I hated living with my dad, It still seemed better than moving to a country full of religious zealots. The next morning, Darcy woke me up at 8 a.m. and told me to hold an ice pack on her injured leg while she would watch TV. Right then and there, I had to choose between pleasing her or, as my dad had warned, being fed to the dogs. Well, I chose to flip her off again, to which she responded, "Good, I can't wait for your dad to throw you out. Maybe I'll come visit you at the children's home you'll move to, next to the other kids no one wanted." I hated this woman so much, but now I was in serious trouble. I had to come up with a wicked plan to break her and Dad up, so I did the following. First, I wrote my dad a goodbye letter, saying, "Bye, Dad. Be careful about Darcy. Today she stole all the money from my piggy bank. I bet she will steal from you too." Then I packed my clothes and moved into our basement without anyone knowing. It had a big gas tank where I could hide behind perfectly. I thought I was so smart. At night, I would sneak out and get food from the kitchen or use the bathroom, even though I often had to pee into a bottle during daytime. Meanwhile, my plan was to frame Darcy for stealing money from my dad. So at night, I would crawl into their bedroom, pull Dad's wallet out of his jeans, and take out all the money. He should think that Darcy was a thief. And one time I even borrowed his credit card for a day and bought several expensive dresses, and of course all in Darcy's size, so it looked like she had purchased them. But after a week of living inside the basement, Dad had still not thrown her out of the house, and I started to lose hope. Sitting in a dark basement 24/7 drives you crazy. There was also a crack in the ceiling where water fell through when it rained, which meant the ground was constantly wet and moldy. Suddenly, following my mom to Iran didn't sound like such a bad idea anymore. But then, in the middle of the night while I was sleeping, the basement window burst. Glass fell on me, and I saw a waterfall of mud coming through. It was so strong that by the time I'd realized what was going on, the floor was already covered in mud, and I couldn't find the key to the basement door anymore. I searched for it for a minute, but without success. Then I changed strategies, ran up the stairs, and hammered against the locked door for several minutes. Hopeless. I went downstairs again and watched the water grow higher. The window was too small to escape. I wouldn't fit through. I was about to drown. I sat down on the stairs and thought about how badly I'd like to see my mom again. Just one last time before I died. To tell her I loved her and to apologize for what I said about her in court. I cried as the water slowly lifted me up. I imagined the pain I'd suffer the last few seconds of my life, when muddy water would fill up my lungs. But the water stopped when it reached the height of the window. I had less than 2 inches of air left, and wondered how long this little amount of oxygen would keep me alive, or if I'd die first of exhaustion anyway. I tried to float and use as little energy as possible, but it wasn't easy. That's when a plastic bottle hit my head. One of my pee bottles, and it floated. I quickly put it under my shirt behind my back so it could help me float. And then I remembered the crack in the ceiling. I floated over there and started sucking air through it. Suddenly, all my hopes were up again. This way, I had a chance to survive. I thought floods normally didn't last that long, but I was wrong. It took 4 days before the water ebbed away again. 4 days without sleep or water. And even then, the water only dropped to the height of the window. There, I put my head down and fell asleep. I woke up to screams. "Another one! Over here!" I lifted my head up, and a firefighter shook in fear. "Oh, she's alive! Come hurry!" They got me out of that basement, gave me water and blankets. But by then, I hadn't drunk water in 4 days and was so severely dehydrated that my kidneys suffered permanent injury. I might even require a kidney transplant one day. Anyway, when Dad found me in the hospital bed, he wasn't happy to see me. He asked the nurse to leave the room, and then he told me, "So you were hiding in my basement." I lacked the strength to flip him off, but maybe that was better. Because he continued, "I broke up with Darcy, so once you're healthier, you can come back home. But under the condition that you will renovate the house and repair the damages caused by the flood. It's been severely damaged." He looked at me one last time before he walked out again. What a freaking psycho.